What if one forgotten Wild West law forced a cowboy and an Apache woman to share the same roof during a deadly flood? What began as survival turned into a story of honor, trust, and unexpected courage that shocked an entire frontier. Stay until the end to discover the unforgettable twist. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon for more epic Wild West stories. Montana Territory, 1884. Spring storms had turned the Yellowstone River into a roaring wall of muddy water, cutting off trails, ranches, and trading posts across the valley. Rancher Jacob Carter had spent the morning searching for two missing horses when he heard a desperate cry echoing above the rushing current. Looking toward the riverbank, he saw a frightened young Apache woman struggling to stay above the water after her horse had lost its footing and been swept away. Without stopping to think about his own safety, Jacob tied a rope around his waist, secured the other end to a sturdy cottonwood tree, and plunged into the freezing river, determined to save a stranger whose life was slipping away. The current fought him every step of the way, throwing branches and broken logs against his body. Jacob reached the exhausted woman just as she began disappearing beneath the muddy waves. He grabbed her arm firmly and shouted for her to hold on to the rope. Together they battled the river until they finally reached the rocky shore. The young woman coughed out water and slowly caught her breath, still shaken by the terrifying experience. She introduced herself as Nayeli, explaining that she had become separated from her Apache family while searching for medicinal plants. Though exhausted, she remained cautious, knowing many settlers viewed her people with suspicion and hostility. Jacob noticed the fear in Nayeli's eyes and stepped back to give her space. He calmly handed her his spare blanket and assured her that she was safe. Dark clouds gathered overhead once again, and another wave of heavy rain began falling across the valley. Jacob explained that every bridge had already been destroyed by the flood, leaving no safe path back to town. The only shelter nearby was an old log cabin built years earlier by frontier travelers. With no better choice, they walked carefully through the rain-soaked forest until the weathered cabin finally appeared among the pine trees, standing alone against the wild Montana wilderness. Inside the cabin, they found an elderly frontier judge named Samuel Brooks, warming himself beside a small fire. Too old to travel through the flood, he had been stranded there for several days. After welcoming them inside, the judge shared food from his limited supplies and warned them that the Yellowstone River would remain too dangerous to cross for several more days. He smiled gently before mentioning an old frontier saying that had become famous among nearby settlements. During flood season, travelers trapped on the same side of the river often stayed together under one roof for protection. But over time, local gossip twisted the custom into the saying, "Those who swim in the same river must share the same bed." Nayeli immediately stiffened after hearing those words. She had grown up respecting the traditions of her people and feared that the strange frontier custom might be used as an excuse to dishonor her. Jacob sensed her discomfort without her saying a word. He quietly carried an old mattress toward the corner of the cabin and invited Nayeli to take the only proper bed. Then he spread his own blanket across the rough wooden floor beside the fireplace. Looking directly at her, he said that no tradition, rumor, or joke was more important than another person's dignity. The judge nodded with quiet approval, recognizing that true character was revealed by actions rather than empty words. Even after Jacob's promise, Nayeli remained watchful throughout the evening. Whenever Jacob stood to place more wood on the fire or stepped outside to check the weather, her eyes carefully followed him. Years of conflict between settlers and Apache families had taught her not to trust strangers easily, yet Jacob never gave her a reason to fear him. He spoke respectfully, avoided unnecessary questions about her past, and shared every piece of food equally. As the storm raged outside and thunder rolled across the mountains, the cabin slowly became a place of unexpected peace instead of fear. For the first time since the river swept her away, Nayeli allowed herself to believe she might truly be safe. Morning arrived with grey skies and the sound of rushing water still echoing through the valley. When Jacob opened the cabin door, he saw that the Yellowstone River had risen even higher during the night, carrying broken trees and debris downstream. Escape was impossible. He gathered firewood while Nayeli prepared a simple meal using dried meat and herbs she had saved in a small leather pouch. Working side by side without argument or mistrust, they slowly discovered that kindness could exist even between people raised on opposite sides of the frontier. Neither of them knew how long the flood would keep them trapped, but each passing hour quietly replaced fear with respect, setting the foundation for a bond that neither had ever expected. As the days passed, the flood showed no mercy. The Yellowstone River continued to roar through the valley, making every attempt to leave impossible. Jacob and Nayeli accepted that survival depended on working together. Each morning, Jacob inspected the old cabin, while Nayeli collected dry herbs, cleaned cooking utensils, and prepared simple meals. Heavy rain leaked through the roof, forcing them to gather fallen branches and patch the holes with animal hides and mud. Although they came from different worlds, they quickly learned to trust each other's abilities. Every shared task replaced another piece of fear with respect, creating a partnership built not on words, but on quiet determination. Food soon became another challenge. The supplies inside the cabin were nearly gone, and the nearest settlement remained unreachable. Jacob carved a fishing spear from a straight pine branch, while Nayeli braided strong cords from plant fibers. Together they walked, carefully to a calmer bend in the river where trout gathered beneath the rocks. Their teamwork brought success, and before sunset, they carried enough fish to feed everyone in the cabin. Around the evening fire, Judge Samuel Brooks smiled proudly as he watched them laugh together for the first time. The cabin no longer felt like a prison, but slowly became a place where hope continued to grow. Every night brought new dangers. Hungry wolves driven closer by the floods circled the lonely cabin searching for food. Their haunting howls echoed across the dark valley, keeping everyone awake. Jacob stayed outside with his rifle, while Nayeli prepared burning torches to keep the animals away without unnecessary violence. One particularly cold night, a large wolf came dangerously close to the doorway. Instead of panicking, Jacob fired a warning shot into the air, while Nayeli waved the blazing torch until the pack disappeared into the forest. Their courage protected everyone inside, proving once again that survival depended on unity rather than fear. While the three remained isolated, stories began spreading through nearby ranches and trading posts. Travelers who had seen Jacob rescue Nayeli invented dramatic tales, claiming the two had secretly married under the old river law. Others insisted the elderly judge had performed a hidden ceremony inside the cabin. Every retelling made the rumor more unbelievable, yet many settlers accepted it as truth. Some mocked Jacob for helping an Apache woman, while others criticized Nayeli for trusting a rancher. Neither of them knew how quickly gossip could travel across the Wild West, nor how much damage careless words could cause to innocent lives. Several days later, the rain finally stopped, and the powerful current slowly began to weaken. One bright morning, Jacob climbed a nearby hill and spotted several riders approaching the valley. They were Apache warriors led by Nayeli's older brother, who had spent days searching for her. Expecting to find his sister captured or harmed, he rode toward the cabin with suspicion written across his face. At the same time, several local ranchers arrived after hearing the rumors, believing they would witness a confrontation. The peaceful valley suddenly filled with nervous silence as both groups faced one another outside the weathered cabin. Jacob stepped forward. Before anyone could speak, Without hesitation, he brought out Nayeli's leather bag, her silver necklace, her family blanket, and every personal belonging she had carried before the flood. He carefully placed each item into her hands, explaining that nothing had been touched or taken. When her grateful brother offered him a pouch filled with silver coins as a reward for saving her life, Jacob politely refused. He said he had acted because saving another human being was simply the right thing to do. His calm honesty surprised everyone standing there, leaving both settlers and Apache families speechless. Nayeli looked around at the silent crowd before taking a confident step forward. She spoke clearly, so every rancher, warrior, and traveler could hear her voice. She explained that many people believed old customs and foolish rumors were stronger than truth, but during the flood she had witnessed something far greater. Jacob had protected her honor, respected her choices, and expected nothing in return. True honor, she declared, was never decided by forgotten frontier sayings or whispered gossip. It was measured by courage, kindness, and respect. Her words changed hearts on both sides, ending the arguments before they could become another unnecessary conflict. With the river finally calm enough to cross, Jacob and Nayeli walked toward the rebuilt ferry while both communities watched in thoughtful silence. They crossed the Yellowstone side by side, not because of an old frontier law, but because genuine trust had grown between them through hardship and sacrifice. The strange rumor that had once divided people slowly disappeared, replaced by a story of courage and respect that spread across Montana territory. Years later, travelers still remembered the Great Flood of 1884, not for its destruction, but for the lesson it left behind. That in the Wild West, true character was revealed by honorable actions, and respect possessed the power to unite hearts where fear had always failed.